And so, welcome everybody. We're just getting started right now. Um, yeah, so we're talking about elevating your consciousness. And first, here's what I want to say is like the word elevate sort of implies doing, right? And words are always going to be an inhibitor. I shouldn't say always. They're often going to be an inhibitor. We're limited by language. And that's okay. It's okay. And just know that, like, it's an opportunity to notice how we be with our words, right? Or how we be with the energy behind the words. So while the word elevate sort of implies doing, there really isn't any doing that we're going to be talking about. So that's an invitation to just notice. It's like there can be like this energy of like, oh, how do I, you know, how do I elevate my consciousness? I need to get to the next level, or I need to do something or be something different than what I am, which is not wrong and it's not bad. It's just a noticing, right? And how we're going to be with this, the invitation to you is to just notice, like, what am I curious around? What am I holding space for? How am I going to the space within? Inside, I'm kind of pointing to my chest. I don't know if you can see it, but like, how do I go to the space within during this conversation? Which is really just an experience in settling. And we talked a little bit in that last, TED style talk about settling and whether you were here or you weren't. What I'm noticing, what I'm seeing, what I'm teaching in this reality or in my reality is I'm noticing that there's a settling and then there's an unsettling and then there's a settling and then there's an unsettling, right? When I say settled, what I mean by that is someone like Eckhart Tolle would say presence or stillness. Someone like Peter Fenner would say unconditioned awareness or conditioned awareness. The awareness that we bring to our reality through conditioning of our supposed external reality, which sounds very esoteric. And we're going to talk about it in like a real intangible way. Like, what does that exactly mean? We're going to point to it. So when we're resting in unconditioned awareness, when we're settled, when we're present, when we're in the space within, well, I'll tell you what I've been noticing is that there's a deeper connection to the bigger arc of this life and or many lives and all that unfolds in it. And almost like it's like watching a little kid who's excited and who's playing. And when I'm talking about the excited little kid, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about the avatar that is me, right? Regardless of what's unfolding outside of that little kid. It's often fear, anxiety. Um, I was in traffic yesterday and I don't know what I was doing or if my mind just wandered, if I was just present, but I missed my exit. An exit I've taken 1,000 times, and I realized that was going to make me late, you know, late in the illusion of clock time. And so and it wasn't like it was lunch with a friend, I was taking time to have lunch with a friend, and I noticed as soon as this thinking, you know, the thinking mind came in and said the word late. Immediately there was feelings around that. That's been my that's been my quest. That's a mini quest I'm on. Thinking and thought, and how those are two very, very different things.
Mm.
And I've been noticing my quest is to notice, to watch how often am I in thinking and how often am I in thought. Thought comes from universal mind, from source, from consciousness, from unconditioned awareness. It's intuition, right? There are those moments where I'm like, oh, yes, I'm inviting this group of people. Or, I'm gonna reach out to this person, and that's the person who just needed to hear it at just that right time. That's thought. Thinking is what happens when I then think, oh, I'm late. So then I turn, make a left-hand turn, and somebody speeds up. That's the story my thinking mind said. They're speeding up and they're hitting their horn and they're making it seem more perilous than what it actually was. They're making it seem closer. And the thinking mind came in and created this, like I could feel it coming up and through me, right? This
Yeah.
angst, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And that's the thing is that well, the thinking mind creates those feelings. The feelings that don't create the world I want. They create something else. I don't know what, but something else. A show of poo, a show of poop out there. My phone fell as I said that. It's like, thank you, universe. You're right. I got it. And when I'm resting in unconditioned awareness, just pure potential, pure awareness, just allowing thought to come in, to come through me, sometimes it feels like. That's where incredible insight comes in, where connection with other people, where um, some tangible things or clients will reach out and come seemingly from nowhere, or money or relationships, um, or someone doing something really kind, like my daughters, doing something that's very, just the sweetest, sweetest thing. And they're very sweet girls, but just out of the blue, right? That's what comes from sitting in unconditioned awareness and peace, right? Allowing the thoughts to just come through. It's so peaceful because I can trust thought. We can trust thought because it's coming from our inherent essence. So there really isn't anything, because it's like, then it's like, well, how? How do I get from, settled to unsettled to settled? That's the paradox here is like, there isn't really a how, you know, it's the how is more like knowing. If we could just, if we could just
Remember.
remember, yeah, if we can just remember, if we can just know, if we can just, when we trust that knowingness, oh, I'm unsettled. I just turned in front of this guy, I almost died. He could have hit me. That was so rude. It's horrible. As soon as I noticed it, like 3 seconds later, it was gone, you know? And that's, I'm using it like a silly example of traffic. And there are other examples, that this works with, I don't want to say big things because there's no better, worse, bigger, smaller, but seemingly more consequential things like, I'll just put it out there, like something with money, and a extremely stressful situation, losing money, losing investment money, and it feels so real. Or losing a loved one, or losing a relationship, or it could be any of these things that feel tangible and outside of us. And when we slow down, I say slow, but also slow implies doing. Remember also implies doing. It's just like, just the knowing. I'm unsettled. I am in the conditioned awareness. Okay, okay.
I feel like something that's coming up over here is that saying with grief that like grief comes in waves. And when you were doing the hand motion, that's what was coming up for me. It's like grief comes in waves, and like sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live. Like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and like how can I move on? And then the next moment you're like, okay, I'm okay, and you feel that.
So that's a perfect example of thinking and thought. Thinking is this story, this is the worst thing. And then thought comes in and says, you're okay. You know why? Because you are okay. We're all okay. It's like tuning the channel on a TV, like the old TVs. I don't know who remembers this or what. I guess on the radio, same thing, right? Rebecca's like, yes. Alex, I see your hand. Right? Like on the old TVs, we didn't, I think this was even predated cable. It was like channel 3, 5, and 8. And that's it. And if you turned in between them, there were stations in between that you could turn to. I don't know why, because there wasn't anything on them except for static, right? I and that's just the way this works too. It's like, why does thinking exist? It just feels like static. You know? It's like, doesn't matter why. I have no idea. But what I do know is when I turn and I pause there and the static comes, it's like, shh. And then it just, if I just let the little button go or the little knob go, immediately it tunes into a channel. And I can see the TV screen and it's this beautiful picture. And I love the picture. That's thinking and thought. But when I'm on the staticky channel, obviously I don't get the picture of what it is that I want to watch. This is literally a metaphor for our lives, for our reality, and for elevating our consciousness. So I've had so many examples, you know, I'll give you an example of, when I'm on my trip. It's my 50th birthday and something happened where I ate something, I ingested something that I was allergic to, and seemingly this looks like, um, you know, a show of poo because it feels like it's something that's physical and cannot be changed. It's in my body. I cannot change this. It cannot shift. It's happening, well, it's happening in my body, but it feels like there's an impact that's getting created because um, then how I am in the world changes, right? How this body, this physical being, and this mental and emotional, spiritual being changes. And so this is one of those things where, just like with money or anything else that seems like it's outside of us, I can get super clear that what I'm aligned to in the bigger arc is consciousness, period. Whatever that looks like in this moment when my body is physically reacting. That might be grief over losing my beloved, Newfoundland, or this physical reaction, like, and the thinking mind's like, oh my gosh, this is my 50th birthday. I have all these people here, whatever the thinking mind might want to go to. Like, I've been planning this for a year, and there's nothing, there isn't anything I can do, right? Like, that's all the thinking that could come in. And when I rest in unconditioned awareness, the awareness was before conditioning. In my knowing, the shift happens, you know, maybe it's not immediate, maybe it's not that second, but certainly the shift, I'm saying shift as if something's happening externally. So I'll say, like, this is one of those things where language can be limiting. It's like the settling happens. Like, I was standing on the beach and it was this big drop off, and, you go down into the sand and like sink down really far, and the waves would come up and wash the sand away. And it felt like I was getting deeper and deeper in the sand. And ultimately, like, I just settled and actually got grounded. I didn't get washed away. I got grounded. But in the beginning, it felt like, oh my gosh, this water is going to take me away. But actually, my feet just got down to where the sand was a little more compact and I was grounded. I was in my grounding. And that's what this conversation about consciousness is. It's a remembering of our grounding. It's living in unconditioned awareness. It's awareness of our unconditioned awareness. That's our inherent nature. That's who we are in the world already. And we don't have to do anything outside of ourselves. And I noticed there was a little bit of like, you know, after the little traffic thing I was telling you about, there's my mind wanted to go to like to calm myself down, like, oh, I need to do this and I need to do this and I need to do this. And I realized, gosh, what a huge aha. Like, I have used doing to settle myself. And that's what we're taught, doing, accomplishing, achieving. I get to this or to that or to the next level, then I'm gonna whatever, feel achieved or enough or whatever. But the message there has been do in order to be, do in order to achieve, and do in order to settle. But it never really works because there's always more doing. And yet, and yet, when we're in this state of unconditioned awareness, thought comes through and the doing just unfolds. You know what that's like. Everybody has had that experience where you were just feeling in presence. I like to use my garage cleaning story. I'm not proud of this, but I say that, but it's kind of funny. I think it's funny. It's like I had cleaning the garage on my calendar for an entire year. I would push it back every weekend for an entire year. And I blocked it off for like 4 hours. And I was like, oh, I don't have 4 hours this weekend, No, not this weekend for like an entire year. And finally, one day, I was just present and I just got my little speaker out and I went out into the garage and it's cleaned out. And I'm not kidding you, like 35 minutes. Not because the garage wasn't, it didn't need cleaning, it didn't need a massive overhaul, but because I was in this state, because I was um, in my knowing. Time works differently when we're in unconditioned awareness because it's a mental construct. We know that, right? And so we can actually sort of like manipulate time. And that's one example. And so a thinking mind might say, well, maybe your garage just wasn't as dirty as you thought it was, Darla. Or you have terrible, planning, time planning, which might also be true. And there's many things that are shockingly like it, let's say mowing the lawn or um, any number of things. Going through email is a great one where, you know, I can go through 250 emails in 30 minutes and feel like I was present with every single one of them. And there are other times when those kinds of things take hours. Same body over here typing. I'm just at a quote unquote elevated level of consciousness, which I hear like the little, like, that could sound egoic, right? But we know that that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about remembering that we are already all conscious. We are already enlightened. We are part of the collective. And that's what's so fun is that, like, I had lunch with a friend yesterday, and she's talking about how terrible the world is right now, and things are so uncertain, and that may be true. And from my experience, from my perspective in the last 50 years, here's what I'll share is that most years of those 50 years, I've heard one person or another say some variation of that. Times are uncertain, and things aren't great, and we don't know how things are going to work out, or it's scary, or the world's terrible, or you know and I'm not denying that there aren't things that are going on. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the consistency of that. It seems to be consistent. So we've already tried the doing thing. How about we try the thing that we be the thing? We be the collective consciousness. How about that? How about we remember that? How about we rest in unconditioned awareness and our inner knowing that when I shift, my reality outside of me shifts? And what if we all did that? What if every single one of us on the planet did that? Just rested in unconditioned awareness. It was just still. They were just present. Because we've done all the other things, waged war and done all kinds of things to create peace and harmony and bliss and love on our planet. What happens when we have a tipping point of folks that are settled in their grounding and are creating the external reality that they desire, which for most people is about love and joy and happiness. Yeah. If you haven't joined us on Sundays, I'll say this, like, we've been meeting for about 10 years, and what I've noticed is that there is an impact on this body, on this being that ripples out. There's a ripple effect, right? Because it's like, well, how can just me sitting in unconditioned awareness like really impact the world? Or how does that impact the collective? If we're all one, if we're all made of energy, right? Infinite potential, just potential energy that forms into particles, right? And there's a quantum mechanics book that's eluding me that will explain this. Um, it's our intention that determines how, in what way it manifests, in what way it's created. So, if that's true, if quantum physics is true, then our intention determines our reality. And I'm sharing the story about myself and others in the group who have shared that there's an impact after consistently being in this energy field, quantum field together consistently. I've gotten that feedback from family, community, friends, the greater world, the lady at the grocery store, the lady at 7-Eleven, because they feel that. And that's how we shift. I'm saying shift. That's how the collective consciousness remembers itself. How about that? Remembers its knowingness. And when it does, and we create the reality that we desire, which again, depending on your words, your version of your words, if you're not attached to the words, you can feel the essence of like a world of peace, a world of harmony, a world of love, a world of connection. So elevating our consciousness is about, if we have to say it in a few words, is about the knowingness. It's about the knowingness that we are already there. We are already conscious. We are already the collective. And when we rest in that state of unconditioned awareness, awareness before we were conditioned, like when we were a baby, when we were a toddler, toddling around, learning how to walk, you know, playing in the sandbox. We didn't, we were at the beach and making sandcastles, and like you didn't make a sandcastle as a child and go, oh, it's not perfect. I'm never doing this again. It was like it fell down, it wasn't perfect, or you kicked it over and it was like, that's great, let's do another one. And there's just such like aliveness. And that's what the universe wants, right? We're as spiritual beings having a physical reality, a physical experience in form. So why not play here? Why not play with our consciousness? Yeah. So thank you for letting me ramble a little bit and share what's coming up over here. I want to know, like, let's kind of have a Q&A, and I want to hear what's coming up for folks. Over to you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, this is right on for me right now. Here several days ago, I had kind of have a lot going on right now. Um, and I just don't have it in me to get reactive. It's not even, well, it's been a choice at moments, but at other moments it hasn't even been a choice. It's just been an experience. So I experienced it and I thought, oh, I like that. What is happening there? But the phrase has come to me that and the phrase is, this is what this feels like. Because like all
Mhm.
these things happening. And so when I just say the words to myself, oh, this is what this feels like, I'm instantly in my body without story. And I like it. So I've been able to experience what you're talking about in this small 2-day period. Um, when you use the word thinking, I'm thinking, so like for me, what that means and how I hear that is um, reactive. It's a reactive conversation I'm having. It's a a reactivity of some sort. I'm reacting to something in my environment as opposed to being in a more aware, being in an aware state and um, and receiving. So for me, being in an aware state, my vibration is higher. When I'm reactive and in reactive state to my environment, my vibration is lower, so I can't hear those thoughts. When I'm aware and I'm in this aware state, my vibration is attuned to those helpful, pleasant, yeah, guiding thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of a
It's a reaction versus responding, reacting versus responding. It's kind of the thinking thoughts. I just heard that today, and it applies directly with what you're saying, Rebecca. Just respond. Don't put a lot of tags on it. Just respond. And what, as the Course in Miracles says, what we to say will be given to us. What we should say or do will be given to us. We don't need to say or do anything. It will all be supplied to us.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Rebecca. It reminds me of, the ladder of consciousness, right? And this idea, which is again just words and it's just something to play with. It's like sometimes we get off the elevator, right? And we go and we walk around in this level of consciousness. I hesitate to use this word because it's not like there's a hierarchy or any level of consciousness is any better than any other level, right? But it's just like a sort of a fun visual metaphor to play with. And when I go up to the top of the elevator, I can see everything. To your point, Rebecca, I can hear thought. I can see. It has better reception on the roof than, at one of the lower floors. It's like being in the basement.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I can just, yeah, it's not like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It's like I go to the top floor and I can hear everything. And sometimes we just get off the elevator, no reason why, doesn't matter. And eventually we'll be on the elevator, we'll be on the top floor again, and we'll, you know, be able to see the whole landscape and see everything around us. And when you can see the landscape, when you can see the elevation, when you can see everything, we make decisions that are in alignment with this bigger vision for ourselves and for our lives. I say decisions, but it we can hear better. And then what unfolds from there, what we do, I'm air quoting doing, comes from an informed place. The place of vision and creativity and universal mind. And that's always where joy and opportunity and the goodies are, you know? Yeah. So who else?
Yeah, this is all resonating very well with me. I kind of had a really great experience today. Um, Sitting at my desk when my coworkers came over, and she was like, "Your desk area is so relaxing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I try to have as much zen as possible at work." And uh, talked a little bit about meditation. She asked me if I was a meditation teacher, and I said no. And she was talking about how difficult it is for her to meditate, and I gave her some things that I had learned and everything. And the end of the conversation, she was like, I need to come over here and talk to you more. It's just so healing. I was like, wow, it was amazing.
Wow. That wow is really powerful, Tamra, particularly for your work situation.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, I want to help ease the suffering of my coworkers. And it seems like I'm actually getting to do that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What questions do you all have, if any?
I don't really have a question, Darla. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. One question, actually, did you choose today for any particular reason?
You can ask the universe.
The reason I asked you that is I don't, well, I won't say believe. I don't know much about astrology or those type of things, but today's a full moon,
Mm,
and it's going to be in half an hour. I heard that yesterday, and I think a lot of people believe energetically there's a lot to be said for that. I don't know what it means, but I just found it interesting that we're all here and we're connected to the universe and it's a full moon. So there's something to that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it
mm.
fits in really well with my day because at the beginning of the year I was like, I want to help ease the suffering of my coworkers. And then today I actually got evidence that I've at least accomplished that with one person, and the full moon represents a complete cycle. So that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
love that.
Darla, what I wanted to share about what you shared is what you talked about with language. And a couple of times while you were sharing, I was trying in my own way to find the right word to describe when you talked about shift, and then you sort of pull back from that word because you're like, that implies doing. And I was trying to think, yeah, what is the word? And I came to the understanding that a lot of my own challenge is the words that I try to use to explain things that I'm dealing with. And I realized I had it earlier, but it's almost like just be in the flow. It's not shifting anything. It's just be in the flow. There's like a flow, and I'm not in alignment with it when I'm in that. And I love that television changing the knob channel. I'm old enough to know that too. And yeah, a lot of static. It almost made me think, why do I change the channel? Like, who's changing the channel all the time? If there's a channel that's clear and I've got a beautiful picture, why do I keep switching it back to the static?
Yeah, so this is so great. This is where that metaphor breaks down is because, and I'm just gonna be transparent and say that this is coming from Mavis Karn, not from me. My coach's coach is Mavis Karn. She's his mentor. And Michael asked her recently, just in the last few months, Mavis, if it feels so good to just be in this, you know, place, why do I ever leave it?
Hmm.
And Mavis is 85 years old and super wise. And she said, you don't. Your attention does. So that's where the metaphor breaks down. It's like all the channels are playing. They're just seemingly I'm turning the knob. It's like my attention goes to the staticky channels. There's no actual knob.
The last thought I have is earlier today I was in a meetup. Um, there's actually a doctor, psychologist or therapist, and he was discussing about basically it's like a question and answer type of exercise where you're trying to get to the root of your fears. And mine sort of came down to this existential desire to know that my existence mattered. And I thought, in the moment, which is why this is so beautiful, I'm like, I don't need to find the reason. I don't need to keep living for that reason until I find the reason why I'm here. Then my life isn't worth anything. My life didn't matter. It didn't matter because I didn't accomplish anything. And when I, in that moment, in that place, luckily for, or fortunately for studying this aspect to existence, I was able to catch myself and go, you already matter. You don't need to keep finding a reason to matter. So I felt that when you were sharing. I felt that was the truth. There's the thinking and the thought, like you said. And I'm so caught up in that thinking. Your sharing tonight was just so deep. I just want to say that to wrap. It's so deep. I was just my mind was so expanded. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thanks for your share, Anton. It's like we matter by virtue of existence. And I was coaching a colleague yesterday, and here's the thing is like as human beings, we we love and care about others so deeply and give and trust in others like enoughness and love unconditionally. And yet we don't give that same unilateral love to ourselves always. Like we sometimes we just forget, right? And so what I said to her, sort of bottom lining this is like, like you don't get to not be enough. If everybody else is enough, you don't get to be not enough. If everybody else matters, you don't get to not matter. You're not special. You're not like that special that you're the only one on this planet who doesn't matter, you know, who isn't enough. And, sort of like kind of like fun and tongue in cheek, but like, she just started laughing and like that's that's the thing is like by virtue of existence, where we matter. And we know that. At our essence, we know that. Babies do not need therapy. You know why? Because they know. They're already knowing. They're so close to goddess, God, universe, source, whatever you want to say, whatever your belief is, or just the quantum field, if it's just science, or the nothingness, if you believe in nothing, like they're closer to the nothingness because they just came from it. And they know. And that quote by Houston Smith, it's one of my favorites. We're born knowing, and we learn to not know.
Hmm.
We know we're enough. We know we matter. We know. And we just forget for a minute. For a minute. And here we're in this conversation, and, we're settled, and maybe not, we're in conditioned awareness or unconditioned awareness, wherever we're at. Just noticing that's it. That's all there is. And that's, I kind of shared this at the beginning. That's, the quest that I'm on is just noticing, oh, unconditioned awareness, conditioned awareness, thinking, thought. And it's just kind of fun to play with that and be with that. I see
Dar-
Brandon. Brandon said that he agrees. It resonated a lot. That's so great, Brandon. Thank you.
Darla, I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, Tamara's share and Anton's share about being of service to others and our significance in the universe. We know that we need do nothing. We already are that. How do we integrate being of service? Do we just emit love, or I feel like when I hear the word service, I feel like I should do something. Or how do you juxtapose those seeming contradictions to me? My own confusion about that.
Yeah, it feels like a paradox. I 100% get that because service feels like a doing word.
Yeah, it really does. I hear it and I just go, oh, my conditioning is like, oh, I have to X help somehow.
Yeah. And it feels like it's something that's happening outside of me. I need to serve someone out there,
Right.
right? And there isn't anything out there. There isn't anyone out there. I am the one. I am the allness. And when I rest in that, the service, I'm air quoting service, the service happens.
Mm. It's a byproduct as opposed to, well, it's a byproduct of being in the one.
If we're going to use like, if we're going to use sort of like technical language or, like point to it, with kind of that languaging, yes, you could say that. And I would I would bring in something whimsical. Why? Because we already have so much in the world that sort of the yang energy and the trust
Yeah.
me, I'm strategic. Look at my whiteboard for our trip. Like we did a whiteboard for our trip. So my 50th birthday, right? So I'm all about strategic, right? And I'll say that like even the whiteboard came from um it came from essence. It
Nice.
flowed out. It came from love or whatever my stake was, right? And knowing that when I'm in the knowing, and this is my experience that I'm sharing with you, when I'm in the knowing of that, the impact, the service is so much more profound. It's because it's not about what I say or what I do, Marty, at all. It it's what I'm being when I
Mm,
am being. Am I the I am I, or I am that? Or am I trying to serve?
mm.
And there's an impact to that. It doesn't matter what you do in this hyperbaric chamber, that's this conversation. It doesn't matter what words came out of this mouth. What matters is that we sat in it together, is that we pointed to the space, we sat in the space together. And in the knowingness that what evolves, evolves. So in that way, there's no doing or serving.
It may
For
be like I
me,
have to. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna kind of pull back to what Rebecca was saying that, oh, there it is. So maybe when it happens or I experience that, I'll say, oh, that was that. That's what it is. So stop looking and just keep being in the one, and don't be looking for opportunities to serve. I'm not sure. I'm still working this through my consciousness.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead. Penny.
And I know Alex had your hand up, Alex, and then I know Stan wanted to say something. I want to put something tangible into the space. It's like I get curious, this is my experiences. I get curious, right? And I ask myself, and I don't have to ask anymore like I used to. Like it used to be I'd ask, you know, am I being of service? Am I doing? Am I just being?
Hmm.
And then it was like, am I in the space within with this person? That's it. Or this circumstance or this situation. Am I in the space within? Oh, okay. Oh, am I not? I know because I'm thinking and I'm thinking of what I'm going to say or do or whatever. There's thinking.
Mm.
Not.
Mm.
Stan, I know you wanted to say something. And
Yes.
yeah, okay, go ahead. And then Alex and then we'll close out, guys.
For me, my last career led me to service, and it was an accident, something I hadn't planned, something I hadn't thought about. And here I am in the middle of service, helping other people, uh, loving it. And as I tell everybody about that, I also said, I got more out of it than anybody I ever helped. So you think life is the life of a journey is sometimes it's planned, but to me, it's all been an accident. None of it is planned and it just comes about and you go with the flow.
Mm. Going back to that flow word. Thank you, Stan. Somebody said flow earlier. Going back to that flow word. That's great.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. Alex, what did you want to add to that? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Um, I found this new journey that I'm on with the passing of my mom and all of the stress that has come around that and having to take care of my dad and everything has been really, really interesting. And I have not been what I would traditionally call present. I've been very much in my conditioned mind. I've been very reactive. I've been very triggered. And it's really interesting to hear what everyone's talking about and some epiphanies I had with that and also around service. Well, I have noticed where they're complete strangers. I've had to Uber a lot and things like that, where I wouldn't normally share, but people I've found when certain people would be I would realize you're very genuine and really want to know, and I would just give a little bit and of what's going on, and I wouldn't just get condolences. I would get people who genuinely understood the stress, and they would start like kind of going off on their experience, and I realized something that normally I've had this experience, this fear of being not only being in that lower vibration, but also being around other people who are also in it. And because I'm like, no, I've got to be in peace and it's affecting my life. And what I realized during this time is that people like the just being in a space where there were other people who understood what I was going through was not only did not only feel very loving and healing to me, but when they would start talking about their experience, instead of me kind of like cringing and be like, oh, I shouldn't have said anything, like I might have in the past, I was just open and there and listening to them. And I had this experience where I was like, wow, not only do I feel healed, but I almost felt like I was automatically being of service because I was there listening just like they had listened to me. And it just felt very spontaneous and mutual and very healing for both parties. This happened multiple times to me. And it's a very interesting space to be in because it really has been incredibly stressful, and it has been like really hard to not be calm, to be in that space. But also realizing that, hey, actually, I'm still showing up. And yes, there's a lot of doing, but still in this space of, especially in instances like that, where I'm really just being who I am in this moment, and also being able to be there, listening and aware for that other person. And it's just such, I have to say that in all of this, it feels like nothing good is coming of it, but that's not true. There's actually been a lot of good and a lot of lessons and a lot of love that I did not expect to get out of this. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Alex. It's like, who knew the space within could be an Uber, or anywhere. Like Randall said in the chat, you serve each time you say hello to a stranger, you tip a waiter, you smile at someone, you open the door for someone. Your service is what you do that is not for you. Yeah, and we're closing here. And I'll just say, like, I've had that experience in the line at Chick-fil-A picking up food for my kid in the drive-through. Where in like I wasn't intending to be of service, but I looked the person in the eye and I just, for that instant that I was taking the food, you know, you could look at that as service, presence, stillness, consciousness. It's irrelevant. There was a space. There's a space within here and there was a space within together. And maybe that's service, who knows? Um, so I love all these examples. And Alex, thank you for sharing that. And again, of course, our hearts are with you as you go through this with, your mom changing form and everyone for your examples and your wisdom and your insight. It's been so, so amazing to have you. Um, yes, and Joe Dispenza says that authenticity is the highest vibration. Love Joe Dispenza. Thanks, Tamara. So with that, like I feel like we could talk for another hour. So we didn't get to hear from everyone, and so we'll have to play again together in this space within in this sandbox sometime soon. And so I'll reach back out and let you know. Thank you again, everyone, for being here and for your presence. And whether you spoke verbally or not, um, yeah, we felt you in the unconditioned awareness. Bye, everybody. Take care.